The golden zone is how can I make the user's life easier and more secure at the same time? And if you can do both those things, you have a real winning solution. When I look forward in the cybersecurity landscape, upcoming authentication and identity access management technologies, I think will meet this golden zone and we'll see really widespread adoption is passwordless. So we could do a whole podcast just on passwordless.
Well, most movie sequels tend to not live up to the first, but things are different here on Thought Hive. We really care about the tech ecosystem here, and it shows every single time. Making his grand reappearance is Mark Maguire, who taught us a little something about IAM and lo mein noodles. Never thought I'd say those two things in the same sentence ever, but Mark, welcome back. What are we cooking this time?
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, today we are looking to talk about user experience and cybersecurity and how those two things interact.
Yeah, let's crank up the volume and take it up a notch on that. Identity and access management, which is IAM and user experience. Our last conversation on IAM, Mark, saw us, go down the IAM path, but now we must draw that connection with user experience because ultimately that outcome is important, right? So where do IAM and user productivity intersect?
Absolutely. When you think about cybersecurity and user experience, I would say user experience is really everything. And that's true in more than just cybersecurity. Across the tech space, ideas are really a dime a dozen. What separates great ideas from not great ideas, in my perspective, is execution. I remember seeing a podcast where Elon Musk was talking about the SpaceX and the incredible Falcon 9 rockets they developed that could take off and land on the same launch pad. Unbelievable technology. And one thing he mentioned was the rocket science and aerospace engineering. That was the easy part compared to the factories. And if you stop and think about that, on a certain level, it's kind of crazy. Like execution is execution is harder than rocket science. Bring that back to cybersecurity. User experience is the number one thing that affects adoption. And if you have the best idea ever, it's going to make life so much secure, but no one uses it. It turns out it wasn't the best idea ever. Because in my opinion, the real best ideas, they make an impact on the world. A good example of that, I think, would be the badge systems that you see a lot of organizations use. So my brother works in a hospital system, and he reached out to me a few weeks back, and he said, Mark, how secure could these badges actually be? Because they make life so much easier. He's like, whenever I'm in one part of the hospital, if I need to go to another part, we just badge and we go right through. He's like, is that actually secure? And the beautiful thing about it is, yes, it's actually really secure. There's a certificate which is printed on that card. It's encrypted. It's much stronger than passwords. And the other thing is, it's so much easier than passwords. If every time he had to get through a door, he had to stop and he had to put in the password. It would be like 8 characters. It's not that secure. So it made his life easier and it made his life more secure. And I feel like that's a real golden zone for cybersecurity. And I would contrast that. I might get in trouble in the cybersecurity community for saying this, but I think it's important to acknowledge it. I would contrast that with multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication, let me say from the jump, it's amazing. Everyone should use it. It provides so much value, but it does make your life a little bit more inconvenient. I know sometimes my phone's on the charger, it's in a different room. I need to sign into a website and I get that second factor. Now I need to go find my phone. I need to answer a phone call. I get a push notification that I need to approve. And that's been the real Achilles heel of multi-factor, in my opinion. So many people aren't using it, even though it would make them so much more secure, even though it would make their organization so much harder to hack. They aren't using it just because it's that little bit of extra friction. So, I would say the golden zone is how can I make the user's life easier and more secure at the same time? And if you can do both those things, you have a real winning solution.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when it comes to staying secure, there are just so many things to consider, right, Mark? And so it's easy to make a mistake because it's a scary world out there. And you've seen the scathing impact of unchecked IAM practices on the bottom line in businesses especially. So would you mind giving us some visibility into user-centric IAM design principles? And maybe you can also add in some successful cybersecurity implementations that are making the news.
Sure. Yeah, user-centric IAM. One of the best examples of that, in my opinion, is tap to pay for credit cards. Similar to the hospital example we gave earlier with the badges, on the credit card, there's a certificate which strongly encrypts information that's being transmitted between your credit card and the vendor. So it's a very strong authentication mechanism that if you have this card, I know you are other people can't spoof this card. If the payment comes in and says it's from Mark, I know that was Mark's card that was scanned at that machine. And it's also so convenient, right? Do you remember when you had to insert the credit card into the machine, and the first time you always inserted it wrong, and the machine would beep at you, so you'd have to pull it out and stick it back in. Tap to pay is so much easier than that, and it's faster than even swiping. So back to what we were talking about earlier about that golden zone. It's making people's lives easier, and it's making it more secure at the same time. And the encryption is so strong on the information being transmitted with tap to pay. I remember reading a story a few months ago about a malware that was taking over credit card readers, but the encryption was so good that even when the malware had control of the credit card reader, it still couldn't steal the information. So what it would do is it would disable tap to pay, and then it would make people swipe their credit cards, because if you swiped it, then it could steal your credit card number. I feel like that really goes to show, A, not only how much easier life is, but B, how much more secure it is, that even if I have full control of the machine, I still can't access the data because the encryption's that good. Another real success story, I would say, of successful IAM implementations is Face ID. Previously, the industry standard with phones was the 4-digit password or 6-digit password, and obviously those aren't very secure, but it was just kind of the norm. Everyone's phone, that's how they were protected. And what you've seen more and more in the phone industry, and I suspect upcoming in other industries, is using biometrics. So scan the face and then you get into the phone. It's so much easier, but it's also wildly more secure than that 4 or 6-digit password. So yeah, I guess I give both these examples to show when you hit that golden zone with your IAM design, when I can prove A, they are who they say they are, they do get access to this, and I can make your life easier at the same time, that's when you're going to see the widespread adoption, and that's what the really good ideas have.
Yeah, these examples that you gave really make you think, because every time I tap my card, for example, I don't pay attention to how secure the tech is. I mean, I don't think many people do. You just want it to be easy, right? And that brings me to this raging debate, Mark, security versus user experience. Which way are we going to go? Are we taking sides?
Sure. Well, yeah, user experience or security. So last time we talked about Chinese food. This time, gotta talk about Taco Bell. One of my favorite commercials, the little girl, it's Taco Bell commercial. The little girl says, "Why don't we have both?" I think that would summarize my perspective pretty well on user experience or security. One of the things I love about August and our clients is there's always a strong focus on how do we make things more secure while we're making it easier. When we do these implementations for companies, there's often a compliance objective. There's often a cybersecurity standard that we're trying to achieve. But at the same time, at the end of the project, what we love to do is we love to look at it and say, how much automation did we also deliver with this? How much less manual work is there in the organization? And when you automate in these solutions, it's more than just a cost savings. It's not just, okay, now someone doesn't need to manually do this, but also when people are manually adding or removing access, for example, sometimes they make mistakes. By automating, you're both saving money, but you're also providing the additional benefit of it's more secure too. So when I look forward in the cybersecurity landscape, upcoming authentication and identity access management technologies I think will meet this golden zone and we'll see really widespread adoption is passwordless. So we could do a whole podcast just on passwordless. It's an amazing technology, but you've already started to see more and more operating systems and websites start supporting it. So Windows recently announced support, I think for Windows 11, maybe for Windows 10 and Windows 11. A couple months back, you've seen GitHub and other websites start using it. But at the end of the day, it's been the theme of this episode where it's going to make things dramatically more secure. It's going to make your account so much harder to steal. It's going to make the IAM so much stronger. and it's going to make your life so much easier because you're not going to need to remember passwords for all these different websites.
I mean, that sounds like a very exciting future. This could really change the world, which is, something you mentioned at the beginning as well. It should impact the way the world is. And it would definitely change the way my notes on my phone look, Mark, with passwords everywhere. I would love to reduce that clutter. And also, I probably should have said that out loud. My phone doesn't have my passwords. But yeah, really looking forward to the future. And we've come to the end of this episode where we journey through IAM, user experience, Face ID, and tap to pay examples. And Mark, since you always bring food to the conversation, you must bring some food to the table as well when you're in town next, probably with a tap to pay experience.
Sounds great. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening, watching out there. Use technology wisely, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.